Hey guys, welcome back. It's Redox. Thanks again for joining me here with another CNC Rivals video. And today I want to really focus on how to stop those early harvester kill rushes that your opponent may use against you. And it's quite a common strategy that a lot of players use. Now I'm going to pause the video right here. As you see, my opponent opened up into a war factory and went for scorpion tanks. This is a viable strategy that works better on the lower ranks, but can sometimes still surprise you at higher ranks as well. You'll still see it as you go up the ladder. You may see them opening up with attack bikes, you may see them opening up with scorpion tanks, and even scarabs as well to rush down your harvester to get that early crystal boost and also shut down your economy for a bit. So in this case, my opponent starts with a scorpion tank here. I go for a militant, and militants are cheap and great scouting units because they have a scouting range of up to 3 tiles. So I already saw his scorpion tank coming from far away before he even got onto that middle launch pad. So let me go ahead and press play here. And because I've got laser squads, of course, I also try to tile block him with my militant. As you see, I'm creating this kind of wall where his scorpion tank can't get close to my harvester. And at this point, I've done quite a few damage on his scorpion tank here, so I'm pretty confident that his scorpion tank won't be able to take out my harvesters in time. And he gets a buggy out to try to help out his tank, but I've got 2 lasers on him, and because I zoned him, I microed against his tank movements, as you guys saw, creating this kind of barrier where his tanks couldn't rip through my units. I was able to chunk half of his health before he could even get close to my harvester, and I try to see if he has harvesters. Normally, if players go into this early strategy, they will commit to it. And as you guys see here, I'm going to slow down. Once again, I block the scorpion tank from being able to pass through this middle section as I have rocks on the side and my 2 units are blocking his tanks. I really don't want him to get to my injured harvester because now at this point his scorpion tank could take out my harvester with that small amount of health that I have on my tank, but now I'm pretty confident once again his tank won't be able to take it out. And so what these players do is a lot of the times they really commit to this rush, and if they can't kill your harvester, they'll keep pumping out tanks or attack bikes, whatever units, to try to snipe the harvester. If they are a good player, if they're a better player, they would actually shift into a harvester themselves and play a normal game, go into getting their economy running in and everything, because he's now really behind. He has no harvester still up on the field, and he's still trying to really commit on to killing my harvester. So there are players who will continuously commit this, even knowing that a player like me, I know how to counter this kind of strategy. Most of the times, yes, sometimes I am caught off guard and I will lose to this type of cheese, but somebody like me, he should realize at this point, like, he's not going to get through my harvesters. He may, but now he has no harvester. He hasn't been farming any crystals, so he's super behind in economy. And even though he goes for he tries to go for harvesters on me again there, I go for a double Inferno Bomb, taking that tank out in one shot. You know, really, at this point, he's lost the game. He should have shifted into a normal game where he should have built a harvester on his own, but he really committed into that rush. So he ends up taking the loss there, but you really want to scout your opponent out with a cheaper unit that has a lot of vision, something like the militant or the buggy, and then go immediately into laser squads or attack bikes, whatever unit composition you have, and try to block off those tanks, because scorpion tanks have a speed of average, and the predator tank has a slow speed. So you can actually micro your units back and forth and try to block your opponent from rushing into it. Alright guys, this will be the second game. This will be the second example of how you can kind of stop these rushes. And with GDI factions, they normally, if they do this kind of rush, they'll normally start right into the predator tank, as you see what he's doing. They don't go into pit bulls, unlike the Nod faction. With the Nod faction, you can go into attack bikes, but for GDI, it's better to go with predator tank, so expect that. And I immediately scout him once again with my militants, and I try to block him off with my laser squads here. And I'm going to slow it down a bit here. He goes into a buggy, but I just ignore his buggy. I'm completely focused on that predator tank because predator tanks have so much health, and I have to move my harvester away from that patch, because if I just leave my harvester on that patch, it will take so much damage against this tank. And because the tank has so much health, I really need to be careful against this Predator tank. In fact, I'm usually more scared about the Predator tank rush than a Scorpion tank. With the Nod faction, it's slightly better to go into attack bikes. That is my opinion on these early Harvester kill rushes. Because 2 attack bikes are so fast, and they can just dish out more damage to the Harvester over time than the Scorpion tank by itself. But he goes for a Harvester on his own, so this player actually shifts into a normal game. His buggies really counter my infantry units here, so I have to go for an attack bike to help out my laser squads. And I decide to try to snipe his Harvester myself. Why not? Try to get a revenge on him. But as you guys saw in that initial part of the video, just create that kind of zone, that barrier. Try to micro your units and block slower moving units like the Predator tank from getting to your Harvester. And move your Harvester away, like in that case, as you saw what I did. Move your Harvester away if you have to, because it's better to not lose that Harvester and give your opponents free crystals. Then yeah, it's better to save your Harvester, especially if you're in the early game. In the later game, it doesn't matter as much. You can sack off your Harvesters to save launch pads if you want, if that's the way to win the game, for example. But in the early game, you really don't want your opponent to have that early Harvester kill, or he's going to be very far ahead, and he could have expensive Tech Lab units which you cannot deal with easily in the early game. I take out one of his Harvesters, I microed my bikes and my laser squads very well, and he's just pumping out Predator tanks, and he's still sending out that one tank to try to kill my Harvester. But I've got 3 Infernal Bombers now, and I'm pretty much going to just rip through all of his ground units here, because Infernal Bombers are just so amazing against ground units. And creating these, when after the bombs get released, they create fire tiles that zone infantry units, because infantry units that walk on fire tiles will burn to death so quickly. And with my 3 Infernal Bombers here, I'm gonna pretty much control this tile, these launch pads. He goes for a double Harvester right there just to pump up his economy as quick as he can, but I mean, he's already lost at this point. So that's it, guys. You really need to try to block off. Once again, I can't emphasize the importance on this. Try to save your Harvester early on, because you don't want him to build a Tech Lab so quick, and that can be very detrimental to you, because if he can pump out expensive units earlier than you, or if he can get those units out onto the field before you have a good counter to it, you're gonna suffer a lot. Alright guys, and this will be the final example of how you can stop these kind of rushes, or how you can attempt to outmaneuver your opponents. Now, instead of going for Scorpion tanks or attack bikes, he actually goes for sort of an interesting rush composition. He goes for a Flame Trooper, which I don't see many players doing in conjunction with the Scarabs. Now, if they go for a Scarab rush, they normally build 2 Scarabs, because 2 Scarabs cost 30 Tiberium crystals each. It's kind of like the attack bike rush, so you can pump out 2 Scarabs. But instead, he goes into a Flame Trooper and a Scarab, and it's smart on him because he knows I'm gonna go into infantry units. So his Flame Troopers, as you guys see, zone my infantry units completely here, and his Scarabs can now blow up on my Harvester. So I can't let him have this economic advantage so early on. I micro away my Harvester as best as I can, and I go for some Talons here, as my Talons will counter his Flame Troopers and to the Scarabs to an extent, but I'm not going to move my Talon right next to those Scarabs, because if I do, my Harvester will die, or if I move my Talon next to it, it will die as well. So that's really good on him, because he's actually not letting me farm my crystals on the bottom side by leaving his Scarab there, because as soon as I move my Harvester down there, it's gonna blow up and die. Now, I move my Talon on the middle launch pad, knowing that his Scarabs are gonna move up, and I let my Talons attack his Scarabs while it's moving, and I take care of his Flame Trooper as well with my Talons. So Talons are doing a very solid job here. He goes for attack bikes, and attack bikes counter the Talons, unfortunately, so I'm gonna have to go for some missile squads here. I try to do some damage on his Harvester on his side as well, and my missile squad will do some damage to his attack bikes. I will let him have his first missile here. I wasn't too concerned about giving away this first missile, even though I should have tried better, but I let him have the first missile there anyways. And I use my Talons to take out his Flame Troopers here while I get my missile squads to run around and deal with his attack bikes. Now, I noticed that he has, at this point, another Harvester going up on the top, so he's got double Harvesters. So I try to take out the weakened Harvester on the bottom, because I don't want his economy to be going here. And my Talons will try to take out his Flame Troopers here. and with my missile squads here. He goes for an early Inferno Bomber here, which is troubling. It takes out my missile squad and his injured Flame Trooper unit, and although my Talons counter his Inferno Bombers, he goes straight up for my Harvester on the top, and as I was trying to microwave my Harvesters, he gets my Harvester just in time. They're just in range as his Inferno Bomb go down, but it helps me take out his Harvester. And if you see on the bottom, his Scarab actually takes out my new Harvester that I built because I was not looking on the bottom of the map, and I end up losing that Harvester, which kind of sucked. I should have moved my Harvester to the top, but I completely forgot about his Scarab on the bottom. And what happens is I actually end up forgetting about my Harvester. I don't even build a Harvester at all from this point. I don't feel that from this point, for some reason, I didn't feel that economic loss. It's probably because I was taking out so much of his Harvesters. I was getting 80 crystals on each of his Harvester kill, and I've killed quite a bit of his Harvesters at this point. As you guys can see, I have Talons on the top, I have Talon on the bottom. I took out another of his Harvester there, so I didn't really feel that economic loss. So I thought I had a Harvester the whole time, mining crystals on the bottom of the map, not knowing that he had those Scarabs still. So I just keep pumping out Wolverines, and I take out all of his Harvesters. Like, he's pumping out those Harvesters on the top, but I keep killing them over and over again, and I'm getting my economy back by that way. So I mean, in a way, it was working out for me, even though I didn't have a Harvester on the map, which was very interesting. He's gonna try to hold these launch pads with some of Cyborgs here, and his Inferno Bombers with his Obelisk of Light tower. But I continuously hold these launch pads with my Wolverines and Talons, and then sending a Dr. Liang drone at the end there. But yeah, I mean, if you can continuously kill his Harvesters, you don't actually need to build a Harvester of your own, because you're gonna get so much crystals in the end anyway. So I didn't realize that I was lagging behind the economy, because I could still pump out units so easily by farming off his Tiberium crystal miners, his Harvesters. So that was a very interesting game. So this is kind of one way you can counter these Scarabs. Once again, you really want to try to micro away your Harvesters away from those bugs. If you see attack bike rushes, if you see tank rushes, try to block them off with your units, or run away. Just run your Harvesters away, because you really don't want to give them that early economy advantage. And that's something you really have to keep in mind, because if you do, once again, he'll be able to pump out really high expensive units, or some type of unit that's going to decimate units on the battlefield, like the Inferno Bomber. So really watch out for that. But anyways, thanks for watching this video, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it once again, and I'll see you guys next time.